I want to remind you once more that October 28th is going to be our celebration Sunday. That's the day we make our financial commitment to the church's ministry for 2019, not to be confused with our bicentennial Sunday, which is going to be the following week, November 4th. We're going to have our church-wide meal in conjunction with our bicentennial rather than our stewardship Sundays we've done in the past. So we'll have two services on October 28th and invite you to consider prayerfully how you might support the church in the coming year. So during October, I'm preaching the sermon series based on Adam Hamilton's book, Enough, which is subtitled Discovering Joy Through Simplicity and Generosity. He wrote the book about 10 years ago, and then he updated it and made it into a stewardship program, and I really like it because it's got a lot of practical advice and wisdom. And most of you should know Adam Hamilton. We've used a lot of his studies during our Lenten dinners. He's the pastor of the Church of the Resurrection out in Kansas City. And I may not have mentioned that he's an alumnus of Perkins School of Theology at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas as well. If I remember, maybe next week I can show you our pictures when we were at seminary at the same time. Last week, we considered how we live in a world that encourages us to live beyond our means. And we considered Jesus' statement that your life, my life, doesn't consist in the abundance of possessions. You know, I can't allow my life to be defined by the stuff I have. And you and I both probably have lots and lots of stuff. This morning I want to focus on a piece of scripture from the book of Proverbs. It says this: the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to want. Now, I really like the way that Eugene Peterson paraphrases that verse in this way. He says, careful planning puts you ahead in the long run. Hurry and scurry puts you farther behind. Let's read this together. Careful planning puts you ahead in the long run. Hurry and scurry puts you further behind. A lot of truth in that, a lot of wisdom. Each week there's a short 1-minute video that kind of summarizes the theme and message of the day. So if we could dim the lights and pay attention to the screen, let's see what we have. Nearly each and every day, I make a stop by Circle K. You know what I'm talking about, the convenience store? And nearly each and every day, I purchase at Circle K a 44-ounce Polar Pop fountain drink. Okay? Best deal in town. Now, when I first, without exception, I fill it up with Diet Dr. Pepper, too. You need to know that. Diet Dr. Pepper. It's a much better deal than McDonald's, which no longer sells Diet Dr. Pepper, so I'm boycotting them. When I first moved to Mount Vernon, a Polar Pop was about 69 cents. And then for a short time, they went up to 79 cents. And then for quite a while, they've risen to 89 cents, which is 98 cents with tax. So, honestly, about every day, I go to Circle K and buy a Polar Pop. I mean, some days I may not have a Polar Pop, and other days I may make up for it and have 2 or 3. So there's a week's worth of Polar Pops. Now, I want you to listen. I've been in Mount Vernon now for 8 1/3 years. How many days in a year? 365 days a year. If we just like on average said maybe a Polar Pop's about 85 cents, guess what? During my time in Mount Vernon, I have spent $2,575 on Polar Pop fountain drinks. Now, if you walked up to me today and handed me a check for $2,500, I'd be thrilled beyond description. I'd probably hoot and holler. I might even wet myself if you handed me $2,500 out of the blue. But what have I got to show for my $2,500 investment in fountain drinks? Absolutely nothing, except that maybe some occasional stress relief. I did some quick calculations yesterday, and this is like 1,100 gallons of Diet Dr. Pepper that I've had during my 8.5 years. Now, contrast that with another purchase that I recently made. My iPhone 5 was becoming quite dated. I needed a new one. The memory was full. The software upgrades made it increasingly slow and clunky. So about 6 months ago, I decided that I wanted an iPhone 8, preferably a red iPhone. I need some color in my life, all right? And I didn't want to add the monthly charge to my phone bill, even though they offered no interest. I didn't want to pay top dollar. So I Googled and found out that new iPhones are typically released in September, and when a new phone comes out, the price of the old ones would drop. And then I did something that's really unusual for me. It's quite out of character. I started saving my money. I put my birthday money aside for my new iPhone. An honorarium from a wedding went into my iPhone fund. Honestly, a few funeral stipends went into my iPhone fund. Someone suggested I put a bronze plaque on it in their memory. And when September came, sure enough, the price of the iPhone dropped. And believe it or not, I was able to purchase my brand spanking new iPhone with cash. Now, which do you think is the better way to use money? If I had saved what I spent on sodas for the past 8+ years, I could have purchased 3 iPhones during that time, for real. You see, the book of Proverbs is right on this point. Careful planning puts you ahead in the long run. Hurry and scurry put you further behind. And I can really identify with an observation Adam Hamilton makes from his own life. He says, my wife LaVon and I are not in financial hardship. We don't abuse our credit cards. We save and give. We're doing okay. But I've noticed that the more money we make, the more money we waste. It seems that the more financially secure we become, the less we worry about spending money here and there. And that's essentially why I can spend $2,500 on fountain drinks without batting an eye, because I can. But it's really not a wise or prudent use of money, I dare say. Hamilton says that we live in a time of excessive materialism. Many people today, he says, are on a treadmill of consumerism, and that treadmill just keeps going faster and faster. But the day will come when either we're going to break down or the treadmill is going to break down, because we cannot continue to go faster and faster in our passion to consume. In this age of instant gratification, he points out that nearly half of all American workers have less than $25,000 set aside for retirement. You see, we live for today and fail to plan for tomorrow. Hamilton also points out 2 huge money wasters that I know I myself am very guilty of. The first is impulse buying. Maybe you can identify with a story that he tells. One evening he wanted to make chili for supper, and apparently Adam likes to put sour cream on his chili. I don't do that, but he likes sour cream, says it's good. He had everything but the sour cream. So he ran to the grocery store, and upon entering, he spotted some beautiful sunflowers in the floral department of the grocery store. And he said, those would look nice on the table tonight. So he grabbed those, put them in his basket. He walked past a soda display that had a great deal on soda. It wasn't the kind that he usually drank, but he knew somebody at his house would probably drink it, and so he picked up 3 12-packs. And then he spotted some chips that looked pretty appetizing, and the pattern continued. And in all, he says he spent over $40 for what should have been a $2 stop for sour cream at the grocery store because of his impulse buying. Now, I've done that and walked out of the store without buying what I went to purchase. A second money waster, and this will be hard for some of us to hear, is eating out. Not only does eating out tend to be less healthy, it tends to be much more costly. And he cites a very dated statistic from the year 2000 that suggested the average American eats out 4 times a week. And I have to believe that number has really skyrocketed since then. So what do we do about it? Well, Hamilton suggests that we really need to begin with our life purpose, the purpose of why we were placed on this earth. What is your life about? Why do you exist? Do you exist simply to consume as much as you can and get as much pleasure as you can while you're here on earth? Or do you have a higher purpose? Are you spending your money? Are you using your resources in ways that are consistent with your life purpose? You see, like Abraham in the Old Testament, you and I are blessed in order to be a blessing. Our purpose in life isn't simply to exist for our own pleasure. Hamilton puts it this way: we were created to care for God's creation. We were created to love God and to love our neighbors as ourselves. We were created to care for our families and those in need. We were created to glorify God, to seek justice, and to do mercy. To be a Christian is to follow Jesus Christ and to seek to do His will in our lives. It is to say, here I am, all of me, I'm yours. Put me to work, help me serve, use me to accomplish your work. And Hamilton adds this: if this is our life purpose, then our money and possessions should be devoted to helping us fulfill this calling. On Twitter, I follow a lot of interesting people on Twitter, but one of them is Cardinal Joe Tubin, who's the Catholic Archbishop out in Newark, New Jersey. He's originally from Indiana. Recently, Cardinal Tubin tweeted this: stewardship is what we do with what we have after we say we believe in God. Listen to that. Stewardship is what we do with what we have after we say we believe in God. Jesus said it another way: where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. Adam Hamilton offers some practical suggestions to help us think about how we use our money. None of it, he admits, is original or new, but it's good, solid, practical advice. And in your bulletin, you'll find an insert that's titled 6 Key Financial Principles. You might want to turn to that, and later on you might want to look up the scriptures associated with each of them. What are these key financial principles? 1, put God first in your living and your giving. You know, if the way we use our money reflects what we believe, then perhaps we should put God at the top of the list rather than at the bottom. And in terms of giving, the easiest way to make sure this happens is to have your offering debited electronically, and that way you make sure it's consistently taken care of. Number 2, prepare a spending plan and track all expenses monthly. This is a real challenge, I know. But as the financial guru Dave Ramsey says, in creating a budget, you determine where each and every dollar goes before you spend it. Now think about that. You know where that dollar is going to go before you spend it. You don't look back 8 years later and realize you frittered away $2,500 on fountain drinks. 3, simplify your lifestyle and live below your means. Warren Buffett is worth something like $75 billion. Yet he lives in the same house in Omaha, Nebraska that he bought in 1958 for $31,500. $500. He never spends more than $3.17 on his breakfast. Buffett says this: possessions possess you at a point. I don't like a $100 meal as well as a hamburger from McDonald's. Possessions possess you at a point. 4, provide immediately for an emergency fund. This is money put away explicitly and exclusively for emergencies, so you're never ever caught off guard. Dave Ramsey suggests you start with a goal of $1,000 and gradually increase it to the point at which you could sustain a job loss for several months. Number 5, pay off all credit card debt. Use cash and debit cards, not credit cards. The truth is, interest paid on credit cards is money thrown away. Last week I quoted Proverbs 22:7 that says, the borrower is the slave to the lender. Enough said. Finally, practice long-range saving and investing habits. This doesn't mean hoard money. It means we need to plan ahead. And Hamilton suggests 3 types of savings that we should have: emergency savings, savings for our wants and goals, like a new iPhone 8, and retirement savings. Honestly, my friends, none of this is new information for me, but it is stuff that I need to be reminded of. Because the truth is that most fundamentally, stewardship is what we do with what we have after we say we believe in God. And Jesus is spot on when he says, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Again this morning, I'd like to close by inviting you, if you're comfortable, to put your hands on your lap, palms facing up, and together, quietly pray together this prayer. Could we do that? God, you know all about us, even when we don't. Forgive us whenever we are wasteful. Forgive us when we are leveraging our future in order to have pleasure in the present. Help us to be good managers of the resources that you've given us. Help us to be generous and willing to share, kingdom-minded, and focused on accomplishing your purpose for our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Remember our app, our website, findhopedowntown.org, through which you can give, stay connected, or watch sermon videos that you might have